Yes, sir. You heard that noise. That is the hurdle. It's Tuesday night, August 27th. Matty Kiwoom. Today was a big day.
Big day.
Today was a big day because training camps are over, preseason's over, and today was a 53-man cut down day because now is the NFL preseason bye, the week 0 for the NFL. College football's official kickoff. Florida State got the dog nuggets kicked out of them last weekend by the Georgia Tech Yeller Jackets. But this is the official weekend for college football to kick off. NFL comes next week. So next time you hear from us, we're going to be preparing you for week number 1. And at that point, I can say with a positive thought in my mind that the week 1 and the rest of season rankings will be up at southharmonff.com. So be on the lookout over the course of the next week at southharmonff.com for weekly and season-long rankings, courtesy of your boy over there. So, also, if you want to tap in over at the South Harmon, southharmonff.com, patreon.com/South Harmon. You can see the shit sheet right here. If you're drafting this weekend, if you have not drafted yet, I got a lot of leagues that are actually drafting this weekend. I got one coming up Thursday night. I got one Sunday. I got 2 Monday. I got one Thursday next week. I got one Friday next week after the second game is over. This is the South Harmon shit sheet right here. You need to be drafting with it, courtesy of Matty Kiwoom. And then also you can see the announcements. There's 3 days left the rest of the week. You get the Warp 50% off annual memberships. Warp 50 when you check out over at southharmonff.com. Team reviews 20% off comes out at checkout. Again, like I said, the shit seats are $5 a piece. southharmonff.com. Go to the store, check them out. Patreon, you're getting like 25 to 35% off the pregame pooper and the sausage tier. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Do it now. Do it now. We appreciate you guys. We love you. Matty Kiwoom, let's get right into the damn show. No intro time. No BS.
Let's ain't no time for that, baby. It ain't no time for that shit.
53-man roster cuts were made and a lot of mud. If you're just scrolling on Twitter, man, it is like shit flying, mud flying, like crumbs from Pop-Tarts, like shit's just getting whipped everywhere. People are reporting shit wrong. Roto World's out here calling Brendan Rice you got cut. You got to go and do your own research to find out he didn't get cut. He actually made the roster. There's so much going on. I sat down and I'm sitting here trying to, update rankings and stuff like this. And I go, you know what? Fuck all this shit. And so I went team by team. I looked at the 53-man rosters. I made a whole list of I don't even know how many people are on this damn list. Like 70, 60, something. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be way off. It's like 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever it is. Ups and downs. All fantasy relevant guys from Josh Jacobs to Mason Tipton to Eric Tongas, Devon Vele, Michael Carter, Kwame Lassiter. They're all on there. All fantasy relevant guys, whether it's Dynasty top 500s, whether it's top 10 guys like, Josh Jacobs potentially should be being drafted right now. They're all over there at Cody Carpentier on Twitter. You can also go follow Matty Kiwoom at Matty Kiwoom on Twitter. Matty Kiwoom, you saw this list. First name that came to mind. First thing you thought.
First thing that came to mind was actually the one that was at the top of the list. It's impossible to miss it. One, because it's at the top, but also it's probably the biggest takeaway in terms of our seasonal drafts coming up this weekend. Josh Jacobs. If you've been tapping into the hurdle, then you already know that we have already been screaming from the rooftops the role that Josh Jacobs was going to have in Green Bay this year. You don't make him the highest paid running back in terms of free agent contracts given out this offseason. 4 years, 40-something million. You don't bring him in. He was brought in to be that one running back that could do all things. And now with basically no one else in the backfield, it will be the Josh Jacobs show. You have in parentheses here on your tweet, full-blown CMC role. People are going to scoff at that, but they're going to give Josh Jacobs as many touches as that boy can handle.
We talked about it like the last 3 shows, I feel like, about this Niners. I've told Alex the same thing. I just keep repeating. I'm like, this is San Francisco, but better. This is San Francisco, but better. This
he comes from that tree,
They built the thing, but they built it better. The only thing missing in this rebuild, or this build, I should say, is the left tackle. like San Fran has Trent Williams, Green Bay lost Bakhtiari to injuries. If Bakhtiari was healthy, if Bakhtiari was still on this roster, this team with bona fide, like 100%, I could say without a doubt in my mind, as a growing up a Viking fan, I could say without a doubt in my mind, Green Bay Packers have the best offense in football. I would say that. I would say that.
Yeah.
And that makes me want to throw up. But Jacobs is in the McCaffrey role. Reed is in the Debo role. You have Musgrave in the Kittle role. Plus they have Kraft. You have Dobbs in the Ayuk role. People will argue Ayuk's clearly better than Dobbs. I think this year is going to tell us a little different story. And then you just happen to have Dontavian Wicks and Christian Watson behind Dobbs and Reed. And when you look at San Francisco, like they've been trying to get a guy like Watson and like, Melton and like Wicks. Jawan Jennings, dog, not that great of a football player. Danny Gray, burner, not that great of a football player. Ronnie Bell, pretty good preseason guy. But like pound for pound, give me Green Bay. So Jacobs is a disgusting value that you're getting a lot in the third round right now. So I can't fade that one. Gingy writes, are you guys on the wrong channel? Gingy, I want to know if you're on the right channel, because if you're not, you should be, because we're here and we're the channel you should be listening to. This is the Hurdle, homeboy. So welcome to the jungle. All right. Couple more names on this list. Positive standpoint. Trey Benson. Nothing happened other than Michael Carter got cut.
Yep.
A couple weeks ago, stuff came out about Michael Carter not having to play a preseason game because his role was defined, according to Mr. Gannon in Arizona. And there was worry about Michael Carter and Amari DiMercato taking away role and reps from Trey Benson, who they didn't say needed to be redshirted quite as harsh as Green Bay seemed to have said about Marshawn Lloyd, but they basically said Trey Benson wasn't ready. And then all of a sudden this last week, it was like, yeah, Trey Benson's probably going to have a good receiving role. And it was like, wait, what the fuck? What?
Yeah.
And Carter gets cut. So it's DJ Dallas, it's DiMercato, it's Trey Benson, it's James Conner. And all of a sudden Trey Benson's right back into that top 10, top 8 handcuff.
Yeah, he instantly becomes one of the most sought after, I would say, second tier, third tier rookies in terms of seasonal drafts, in terms of the running back position explicitly. And now, again, we were feeling a little uneasy when it came to Trey Benson in terms of what his exact role would be and who would cut into what and how would it be defined. But now it's as simple as we thought it'd be. James Conner goes down. Trey Ben is going to absolutely smash. And what it looks like to me is Gannon and the offense wanted bigger bodied backs. They're all big guys. They kept Benson and Connor, and they kept the big body guys.
Can you explain this Izzy Abanikanda thing to me?
I know. I don't know. I would imagine
they kept him for this specific. They kept him on the roster so they could make a move, right? They didn't keep him on the roster.
They had to.
Like we haven't heard enough good things about Izzy Abanikanda on the roster, and he got surpassed almost like in a day by Braylon Allen. And I don't know what the situation is between Isaiah Davis and he, but I would venture to bet they probably prefer Isaiah Davis to Izzy. But keeping him on the roster maybe makes another team. We know how Joe Douglas feels about draft picks. So, we saw Ernest Jones gets traded from the Rams. The linebacker get traded from the Rams to the Titans. This guy was like 140 tackles last year.
Well, yeah, the team leader in tackles last year. Yeah,
he got traded with a 6th to the Titans, and the Rams got a 5th back.
Yep,
something like that. But like Izzy in a 7th for a 6th. Izzy in a 7th for a 7th. Like, throw me a couple $100 type of a situation. Like, I don't know, but Dallas and Cleveland need a back. Dalvin Cook was in Dallas today. Cleveland has 2 backs on the roster, Pierre Strong and Jerome Ford, Jerome Ford's another one that we can talk about if we really want to, but he seems to be just going to be skyrocketing up ADPs in your home league drafts today. What do you think about him or any of these other running backs?
Well, Jerome Ford, I was hopped on the All In podcast that's going to be dropped in later on this week over at South Harmon, the podcast network, and we did a quick mock, and we talked about Jerome Ford. And a little spoiler alert: we talked about how the days of you getting him in rounds 9, 10 are over, and that starts today because they've clearly told us that they are beyond comfortable with Jerome Ford, to the point where when Nick Chubb comes back, does he take over that Kareem Hunt role in the offense, and they just let Jerome Ford do what Jerome Ford did last year, which was be running back 16 in fantasy football. So it was a huge day for Jerome Ford. Another player that pops to me is Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin, if he doesn't get that big touchdown season, it's never going to happen for him. He's had such bad luck with his quarterbacks in terms of the deep ball. He's had poor deep ball throwers basically his whole career in Washington. They bring in Jaden Daniels. Daniels can chuck it. He's got a beautiful deep ball. Showed that with De'Ami Brown in pretty much his first series in the preseason a couple weeks ago. And when you look at, how the Cliff Kingsbury offense kind of runs, it goes through one receiver, and then they just kind of use role players. It's looking exactly like that this year for the Washington Commanders. Cliff Kingsbury, Jane Daniels funneling a ton of targets going Terry McLaurin's way. And we saw, DeAndre in his heyday with the Cardinals see 160, 150, 170 targets. We saw him just peppered with targets. So this looks like the season where Terry Mack sets his career best in targets overall, as long as he can stay on the field. He's been a guy that's been around 130. This is the year we see him go 150. I think this is the year we see him go 12 hundo and push, that 7, 8, 9 touchdowns and become a value, because this offense will, if it operates, smoothly with the rookie, it's going to funnel through Terry McLaurin because there's no more Jahan Dotson. They didn't bring anyone else in. They cut Martavis Bryant, and Dynasty Brown will just play on the outside. Luke McCaffrey, depending on what report you trust, is anywhere from a bubble guy, barely can crack into the top 4, or he's the number 2 receiver. Which all that tells me is there's too many. It's that old saying: if you got too many players, you got none players. You got Terry Mack, you got the tight ends, and that's how the offense is going to run. The rest of the guys will have spike weeks and be role players, but it's wheels up for Terry Mack this year.
I think the answer might just be Zach Ertz as the second option. Like De'Ami Brown could be like, as far as what we saw from Jaden Daniels in college, like De'Ami could totally be that Brian Thomas role. Terry could totally be that neighbor's role. And then of course you have Mason Taylor being your probably Ertz for the first 4 or 5 weeks. And then Ben Sinnott is just disgusting in the second half. That's the hope. Speaking of wide receivers, Matty, I'm going to list off a bevy of rookies. And I want to gauge thought here. This is predominantly a dynasty kind of thought experiment here. I'm going to list through all of them, and then we'll talk about it. Casey Washington, rookie out of Illinois, played with Isaiah Williams at Illinois. Both guys were at the Shrine Bowl. Casey Washington makes a roster. Atlanta. Sorry. Gosh, there's so many names in front of me. I'm just like brain farting. Casey Washington makes Atlanta. Malik Washington, the wide receiver from Virginia who led college football in receptions last year, 4th wide receiver of 4 in Miami. OBJ is injured right now, so 4th of 4. So that's Hill, Waddle, Berrios, Malik Washington. Isaiah Williams, wide receiver, Illinois, former quarterback in college, set records at Illinois as a quarterback rushing, 4th wide receiver of 4 in Detroit on the active roster. Of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Khalif Raymond, Isaiah Williams, and I got a brain fart for the 4th one, but they also just signed Tim Patrick to the practice
Tim Patrick, yeah. Yep.
Brendan Rice makes the roster at the Chargers.
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. He's in.
Non-rookie, Keyshawn Butte makes the Patriots. Mason Tipton and Bub Means both make the Saints 53-man roster. Here's a couple interesting ones from the Raiders. There's the Raiders in their have 5 receivers. Camille Payton from Tennessee, who's like the Montrell Washington of this year. I don't recall scouting him. Ramel Payton, undrafted guy from Tennessee. And Tyreek McAllister and DJ Turner. They're the 3 receivers after Adams, Tucker, and Jacoby Myers. Cam Johnson, another wide receiver, undrafted out of Barton. Saw this guy live at the Tampa Bay Jacksonville joint practice. He's wide receiver 5 of 5 in Tampa right now. He was an undrafted free agent. He's a jitterbug. Xavier Weaver, rookie from Colorado, wide receiver 6 in Arizona. And Devon Vele, wide receiver who is in Denver, who pretty much beat Tim Patrick while he got cut.
Mm-hmm.
Still a super quiet rookie. I know you've talked about him before, but out of all those guys, Casey Washington, Malik Washington, Isaiah Williams, Brendan Rice, Mason Tipton, Bub Means, Ramel Keaton, Tyreek McAllister, Cam Johnson, Xavier Weaver, Devon Vele. First name you want to talk about, first name that comes to mind, first thing you're thinking.
So of these names, 2 stand out, and we're going to start with the one that I think will have the biggest ramifications in terms of fantasy, the quickest, I would say, Malik Washington. This is a guy that if there was a quote-unquote Tank Dell in this class, it was Malik Washington. He just didn't go to the spot that was going to elevate him in a way and highlight him early enough. But this guy led the nation in receiving yards, or is it receptions, or both at Virginia last year. He was a dog for them, and he was brought into this team to just give this wide receiver room some depth. He is not a carbon copy of Tyreek or Jalen Waddle. Those guys are some of the best in the league, but we're talking about good route runner, shifty, quick speed, good reflexes, someone that can fall into line and produce for this team. Because what we've noticed for the Dolphins over the last few years was that if one of these guys got hurt, it's like, who's going to fill in? Braxton Berrios?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know Braxton Berrios is on the team because his chick is hot and she's always around. That's why Berrios is there.
We know we know Berrios. We know what that role is. Like, I think there's much more upside in Malik Washington.
100%.
Something happens to Waddle, like, I don't want to say like he's a 1-for-1 with Waddle, but he's sort of like a 70% of Waddle type of thing.
And that might be, I think that's conservative. I think that your true analysis, your evaluation is the best in the biz. And I truly think that you're being conservative there. In your head, you're thinking more like, it's probably more like 81%, 82%. Like, he can handle
that's where I'm at.
some
We've done too many shows together. You know that's exactly where I'm at.
Yes,
I'm trying to be conservative.
You got to be conservative for the vibes, but yeah, him making the team. You know, there was some murmurs that he might be on IR to start the year. He might miss time, might be in the pup. Nope, he's probably going to handle most of the kick return duties. So if you got him in Scott Fishbowl, you're probably psyched. The other name, though, Devon Vele. Again, that quiet assassin. And the thing about you can't let the noise of today completely drown out your process. Go look at who had slight drumbeat back in OTAs, in mandatory mini camps, in all those exercises, because the drum beats that start there typically have the more validity to them. And we heard about Devon Vele impressing in Denver Broncos camp way back in May or in June. So that is impressive to me that they moved on from Tim Patrick, because Tim Patrick, by all accounts, did everything right for the Broncos and was looking like a guy that was going to make this roster. And on top of that, we've talked about it many times, mostly in relation to Bo Nix in his rookie year. There's not a lot of mountains to climb in terms of carving out a role, increasing touches, increasing opportunities for Devon Vele. There's just not a lot of this. Courtland Sutton and Josh Reynolds, Marvin Mims. There's not a lot there. There's just not a lot there. So I'm looking at Devon Vele as one of those guys in Dynasty now that if you picked him up around 4th of July just to have him on the back end of your bench, it's really tough to try to cut right now.
I'm going through the Ravens just 3 minutes ago dropped their 53-man. The Ravens and the Seahawks were the last two I was waiting for. Ravens just dropped. So Owen Wright, running back, preseason guy, goes IR. Keaton Mitchell goes PUP. Anthony Miller, terminated. Keith Kirkwood, terminated. John Kelly, I love terminated.
I know they used that a lot today. Did you feel like they used that term a lot more this year?
Yeah, well, that's
Terminate
weird
the
because
contract.
the
Terminate the
phrasing for the
contract.
guys is like you either get cut, waived, or terminated depending on like your years and services. So like Malik Cunningham just got waived, Chris Collier waived, Emory Jones waived, Devin Leary rookie waived. Heard some interesting things about him at the combine. Obviously didn't make the roster here. So I'm scrolling down to get to the starting roster. And of course, they don't make it easily accessible. That'd be too easy, right? To put it on the same page as the page you put the cuts on. So I'm going to click on team here, and I want to see what this running back room looks like. This is one that obviously, like I said, I didn't get results for. So running backs. Here we go. Rasheen Ali makes the roster. Derrick Henry, Justice Hill. 3-man backfield. Mm-hmm. Dave talked about Justice Hill being the king, like as far not the king. I should not say that. That was a terrible phrase right there because I was looking at the word Derrick Henry. They've talked about Justice Hill being like starter-esque. So he's probably the 2. Rasheen Ali, the rookie out of Marshall, makes it as the RB 3. The wide receiver room is interesting. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, Deontay Hardy, Tez Walker, Tylan Wallace. I'm not sure about Dayton Wade. I'm not sure if Dayton Wade made it or not. He's a rookie. So that's the Baltimore update. Not really much there. As far as the ups and downs go, we'll go back to this list here. As far as the ups and downs go, let's switch to the downs. But just 2 more notes I want to make as far as the ups go. In Buffalo, they kept 5 wide receivers. There was no injury designation to Curtis Samuel. I think that's very big. So he's been on turf. He's had turf toe the last 2 weeks. I saw the joint practice. He didn't participate. The worry was turf toe. His style of play is susceptible to, those short movements. I think that's important. So no injury designation is big. A couple running backs to keep your eye on in your drafts this weekend. Emmanuel Wilson is a guy that, there's thought that the AJ Dillon thing isn't like it's obviously a real IR thing, but that Emmanuel Wilson basically beat him out in Green Bay. So Emmanuel Wilson is either the RB2 or RB3, depending on how you view Marshawn Lloyd. I think Wilson's probably the RB2 for what it matters. Jeremy McNichols, the RB3, the clear RB3 in Washington, behind Eckler and Robinson. That's pretty clear cut. And then Carson Steele, the alligator man, dunks on Deneric Prince, takes the RB2 spot in Kansas City. Let's shift to players moving down. So we obviously had a lot of guys on PUP, IR, Elijah Mitchell, AJ Dillon, Jonathan Brooks, Kendre Miller, Nick Chubb. People know that stuff. But what do you think about some of these cut candidates? Any cut candidates jump off the screen to you?
There wasn't a lot that jumped off the screen in relation to our seasonal drafts. Other than Deontay Foreman, to me, was a bit of a shocker. Mary Kay Cabot, who's obviously like the reporter for the Cleveland Browns, she mentioned it sounds like they'll bring him back to some capacity. They probably have to rework something in the 53 to make that happen. But I was shocked to see them have to, cut him to make that work. It just further pushes the narrative that it's Jerome Ford's season, and he is going to be an absolute steal for seasonal drafts for sure this year. Another cut that I was, it doesn't matter. I was a little nervous, not nervous. It was like a little bit of shock was Evan Hull. That Trey Sermon won the job outright, and then you just cut a guy like Evan Hull. We liked his prospect profile coming out of Northwestern. Was a good pass catcher, racked up the receiving yards and catches.
Played well last year.
Played well in his limited role before he got hurt. There are going to be some running backs out there. I don't know if any will be viable in fantasy, but an Evan Hull catches on somewhere and there's a couple injuries. Like we see this year in and year out where guys come out of nowhere. And I think we're queued up for another season having a little of that, seeing some of these running backs. Frank Gore played well. He's going to land on a practice spot.
100-yard game, bro. Like this is some Mike Boone shit.
Right. He's absolutely. And I would say this, it's not a big takeaway because the sample isn't massive. But it feels like those kick return specialists weren't necessarily regarded as much as I had thought they'd be given the new rules, which is telling me maybe these NFL teams think this is more of an NFL play than a specialty play, so we could just use. Apparently, Kyron Williams is going to return punts for the Los Angeles Rams. And apparently these guys, like, they don't need the Luis Reese-Zammit. They don't need Kine Nguanu. They don't need, like, these guys that we all kind of were thinking would be good little players for the NFL. Probably not for fantasy unless you're in the Scott Fish Bowl. But they were going to have a role. They were going to be on the 53 because they would be special teamers. And it's looking up and down. I mean, Quez Watkins, we thought maybe he would have some return appeal for Pittsburgh. He's gone. Kadarius Toney, they were using him in a bunch of different ways to try to find a role for him. They terminated his contract. And then, of course, like the guys I just mentioned, the Keenan Nguanus, the Luis Reese-Zammits. I guess it feels like people aren't necessarily, or teams aren't necessarily hyper focused on that type of role. So usually in the past, we would have these fringe-esque running backs make rosters for their special teams abilities. Seems like this might be the beginning of the end of that type of expectation.
Not really a ton for me coming off the wide receiver position. Running back, I think it's interesting in Miami. I didn't write it down, but Christopher Brooks missed and Selvin Ahmed missed, and it was pretty clear cut. It was going to be those four guys that made the roster that did make the roster. So that's cool for Jalen Wright. Michael Wiley, I'm assuming he's going to make the practice squad with Washington. You brought up Foreman and Hull. The receiver position, Tyrell Shavers in Buffalo, I thought was a lot closer to Mac Hollins. MVS, no designation, was interesting. I thought he would have a designation that would put Shavers on the roster, and Shavers would potentially take over Mac Hollins. Looks like otherwise. Terrace Marshall finally cut. Noah Brown, probably going to be one of the first guys selected through the waiver process, I would imagine, coming out of Houston. But this was a thought that I had, was looking at Philadelphia. So about a month ago, right when training camp started, it was John Ross, Paris Campbell. I vividly remember the article that came out. It was John Ross versus Paris Campbell for the wide receiver 3 spot in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Within 2 weeks, Johnny Wilson, the wide receiver 3 in Philadelphia. Yesterday, John Ross cut. Today, Paris Campbell cut. Remember, a year ago, Quez Watkins was in that role. He got cut by Pittsburgh today. So he, obviously not in Philadelphia, went to Pittsburgh, got cut. Paris got cut. John Ross got cut. The Eagles went and got Jahan Dotson. They have Johnny Wilson. They have Britton Covey, super freak, speedster. Thoughts on Philadelphia's maneuverability at the wide receiver position to make that third spot finally better, that they've been trying to fill for, John Hightower, Quez Watkins. They've been trying to fill this role for Julio Jones. Like, they've been trying to fill it for 4 years, and they finally potentially feel good about Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson's obviously going to have a little bit of tight end usage, I'm projecting, because it's Goddard and Grant Calcaterra on this offense now at tight end. I'm assuming they're going to, use Wilson in some type of role, because they've wanted to use Tyree Jackson in that role.
Yeah,
they've added guys shit. So what do you think about this Philadelphia receiving room vis-a-vis, Quez, Paris Campbell, John Ross, Johnny Wilson, Jahan Dotson?
Well, they brought in Jahan Dotson, and it was like they finally found their guy, and people are going to scoff at that because he was basically kicked out of town in Washington. But, they gave up a third-round pick, basically the value of a fourth, because they got a pick back. And he's going to fit nicely in this offense. He's not going to be great for fantasy. He's a roster clogger through and through. But in terms of what Kellen Moore wants to do with this team, he's going to help out a hell of a lot on the outside, because we know he's got good contested catch ability. We know he's the type of guy that can make big plays. May not be able to make them a lot, but he's going to be able to make them when they dial it up. And instead of them finding the slot receiver to complement the Slim Reaper and A.J. Brown, they moved the Slim Reaper to the slot role and then got 2 guys on the outside. They drafted one late in Johnny Wilson. That's that Devontae Parker, that Julio Jones body type that they've been chasing. And then they go get Jahan Dotson, who is, the more refined, the more ceiling play of the Quez Watkins or the smaller type receivers with some speed. I like the fit for Jahan Dotson for an Eagles outlook. For Jalen Hurts, outlook, it doesn't have much relevant for Dotson himself, unfortunately, unless there's an injury. And maybe we can get excited about that. But in terms of this offense shaking out, it feels like their ability to get their guy in Dotson kind of settled it all down, and they didn't have to really extend themselves with these kind of reclamation projects like Ross and Paris Campbell.
I feel like they've just finally answered it. Any other thoughts regarding the 53-man roster news? Any instant reactions? Anything that we missed?
No, I mean, we covered a lot of it. The 53 day is not so much for our seasonal drafts. It's definitely for Dynasty. I mean, it's a big day for Dynasty, but it's also a big day in terms of solidifying how we're attacking certain players. This, further solidifies the Isaiah Pacheco smash season. Of course, we were about 95% there, but the fact that they just were okay with Carson Steele being the running back too. They're not bringing anyone else in. They brought in Juju for wide receiver depth. They didn't bring in a running back. Solidifies that role. We know how to attack TJ Hawkinson now in our seasonal drafts this weekend, where we can kind of wait Jonathan Brooks, these type of players. Now there's less confusion. There's still a ton of confusion for the Chargers, but at least now with Isaiah Spiller out of the picture, we're just gonna keep hammering Kamani Vidal. Give me the cheapest version of this offense. I will say though, it just a big meta kind of takeaway for our seasonal drafts this weekend. I am staying so far away from the Chargers everywhere. It's so unclear how this team is going to function that I want nothing to do with it. Just give me Kamani Vidal at the end of my drafts. The investment will be so low, and I still believe truly he's the most talented back given where all three of these guys in their respective careers. So it's just good to see these types of things shake out. All of a sudden, Trey Sermon becomes a last round, stash candidate. When I was drafting Evan Hull throughout the entire time, all my mocks had Evan Hull if I were to go Indianapolis backup running back at the end of my draft. Now I know where to go with these type of things. So the 53 day isn't always great for us seasonal guys, but it does give clarity to some decision making we have to make.
I got something. You brought up TJ Hawkinson. I just wanted to know if you know what's going on here with this picture.
Looks like he's in a pretty severe brace. You're looking to have to elevate it still? That's him right there?
That's not TJ Hawkinson.
Oh, well, then what the hell are you looking at? I don't know what I'm looking at. It looks like a guy with a leg brace.
Anybody in Minnesota recently have knee surgery?
Is that McCarthy?
Yeah.
He looks like a Sam Darnold fire crotch hair right there. He's just chilling.
TJ Hawkinson was there. TJ Hawkinson was there as well.
Okay, good. He should be carrying McCarthy around. Get that rapport going for next year.
See if I can pop that video up. I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can find it quick. Not good audio for me to do this right now, but I'm gonna see if I can pop it up.
I want to answer something really quick in the chat. Chiefs bring in Peyton Hendershot. Does this mean anything for Jared Wiley? No. Jared Wiley is not going to have a role in this current iteration of the tight end room, but the fact that he's on the 53 means that they find there's something in Jared Wiley. So I'm still stashing Jared Wiley in Dynasty. Hendershot is going to be that big body guy, that Jody Forson, that guy that can bring on the field to help blocking and help, that type of stuff, because they cut Irv Smith. Of course, I mean that you saw that writing on the wall. Noah Gray will be there, but Jared Wiley is still the project. He's still the guy I would imagine that coaching staff is telling, stay in Kelsey's back pocket. We want you to potentially be the guy that takes over, because he has the highest ceiling, the most athleticism in that tight end room after Kelsey. So I'm still stashing Jared Wiley. I don't think it means a damn thing.
What about Kyron? You think Kyron's cooked?
Kyron's going to smash this year. He's going, as long as he's healthy, he's going to smash this year. Now he's returning punts. I don't see a lot of.
There was a murmur about Kyron getting more of the lion's share. Like, people have thought the last month that they were going to probably not split, but like we're going to see a lot of Quorum.
I thought it'd be more of a split. It doesn't sound like it. McVay's never really done that. Regardless of his running back. I think the Quorum pick was a future outlook and a guy that they were straight up fucked when Kyron got hurt last year. They had nobody. you invest in a guy like Corum because he's there for the future, but he's there if you need him in short sprints this year. Benson getting a role day one, yes. We talked about it at the top of the show. Seems like he'll have some packages. He'll spell Connor a lot early on, and then of course if Connor does get hurt, Benson is going to be a smash. He's going to be a top 12, 15 guy on a weekly basis when we're going into the week.
Any other thoughts from your shit sheet that people can get over at southharmonff.com right now in the store? It's $4.99 if you're drafting tonight, tomorrow, this weekend. The shit sheet's right there. That's kind of what it looks like. It's got a checkbox. What you can't see in this screenshot here is the 2023 Warp is included in the shit sheet. Any updates coming post 53-man cut? How's the shit sheets looking for the people that are drafting this weekend?
Shit Sheet 2.0 is live in person. 3.0, which will be the final version, will be done by the end of the week. So you'll have that for the big mega draft weekend. Of course, we're moving my boy CeeDee Lamb back up a couple spots. I had dropped him down just a handful of spots. He'll go back up now that we're expecting him to just hit the ground running in Dallas. But other than that, not a lot of movers and shakers. The top 200, a lot of today's news doesn't necessarily change a whole lot in terms of the top 200. But again, at the end of your drafts, we got some clarity now. So yeah, tune into the Shit Sheet 3.0 dropping this week.
All right, so you gave me like 5 minutes to bag sand to getting this video, and I'm still about 30 seconds away, but I'm getting close. Do we have any more comments in here?
Just the boys. The boys are in there. But while we got you, let's just say it again. With the season kicking off, South Harmon is getting ready to bring the fucking noise. Podcast going to be dropping almost daily. Solo videos will be coming out from all four of us. We got shows all day long, streams throughout the week. Whether you want to watch Mike take down another national championship for Iowa, or you want to watch the hurdle, or Wednesday AMA, or Fizzle Friday for the marathon each and every Friday, the game plan on the weekend starts. We're going to be bringing the noise. So make sure you are tuned in, tapped in, South Harmon FF here on YouTube.
I forgot to bring something up. Matty Kiwoom. I invited Fizzle on next Tuesday's hurdle.
Well, he better come on. If he's around, he better come on.
We have an announcement for a new show the following week. And while we're talking about it, I'm glad we stayed on for an extra minute. I was going to end the stream, and I had to say that, as well as my Thursday solo videos, right? Everybody's doing solo videos. I think Matty's drops what, tomorrow?
My new perfect draft 1 through 10 drops tomorrow.
So we got a new show coming out next week. The announcement's going to be next week regarding that one. Fizzle's going to come on the hurdle and talk about it. But I haven't talked about this to any of you guys. But my Thursday solo show, I decided this like a week ago. I just have been brainstorming through how I want to do it because from a college football perspective, from a Devy perspective, from a draft perspective, I'm going to do a show instead of a video. It's going to be a lot more work, but I'm down for it because I think the content will be worth it. It's going to be I haven't got the title of the show in yet. It's going to be something along the lines of college football show, college football draft show, whatever it is, but it's going to cover all the things that I've promised before to do in that solo video, which is NFL draft, college football, whatever, all across the board. Devy.
Oh, I can't wait for the announcement.
Those rankings, all those rankings, dynasty rankings, seasonal rankings, weekly rankings, Devy rankings, everything, rookie rankings is going to be up on southharmonff.com. So if you are a patron sub and that's how you get your rankings, you'll still get them, but you'll also be able to go over to southharmonff.com and get rankings there as well. A lot of big stuff happening, Matty, right now and over the course of the next week, 2 weeks as the season begins. Shows are flying off the books. Like, y'all need to be tapped in at Matty Kiwoom, at Cody Carpentier, at South Harmon on the Twitters. I don't know what I just did to my screen, but I can no longer see the comments, which is very cool. So now I'm trying to upload this video and my screen.
Nope. I can't help you. And now your mic's cut out. I mean, you just going through it. I don't know what you clicked. I don't know what happened. We should have landed this bird.
Never land the bird. Always. Oh, you know what it was?
He's back.
The video was the video. The video was grinding so hard.
This video better kick ass, dude. This video better rock.
Can I? It just told me your video's too long.
Of course it is. Okay, screw the video.
No, I just chopped it in half.
I just chopped it in half.
How fast can this thing
just
upload?
samurai sword it. I just cut that shit in half.
Because it's getting to be dumb. I could just screen share. How about I just put an IQ of a fucking donkey over here? IQ of a donkey over here. I could just be screen sharing right now. How come you didn't say anything, Matty?
Because I have a brain of a donkey. We got a couple 1-2 donkey brains up here. What do you want me to say?
Okay. Screen share. Window. Entire screen. All right. You see it?
Yeah.
All right. So this is JJ McCarthy. Right here. This is Brian O'Neill, starting right tackle Vikings. And then TJ's over here somewhere. Right here.
Was he dancing? Oh, I see him. Yeah, you can see him. You see that hair?
Could you hear it, or is it just a quiet?
It's pretty muffled, but I could tell it's Zach Bryan. I imagine it's, a good show going on, but you can't really hear it. I ain't gonna lie, It was definitely not worth the extra putzing around. But I am excited to see that TJ Hawkins is up moving around, dancing a revival. So he'll be back in week 5, ready to fucking rock.
That's the point. The whole point, and why you guys stayed the extra 7 minutes through some painful shit, which is probably not worth it, is that I saw TJ Hawkins in this weekend, and he looks plenty healthy, and he was drinking some calories, so I think he feels good. So you should be drafting him in the late rounds, the last rounds. Put him on the IR, stash him away. We're your boys, Matty Kiwoom, Cody Carpentier. You can catch us every Tuesday, 8 p.m. with The Hurdle. Matty, I don't want to do more shows, but I miss doing multiple shows a week with you. I'm going to be honest with you. So we love you guys. I love Matty. I don't give a fuck if Matty loves me, but I love y'all.
I do love you. I'm excited. I'm gonna be in Charleston in a couple months, like 6 weeks.
We get to do live shows. We get to do live shows.
We can do some live shows. I'm gonna be there for a few days, baby.
We love you. We'll see you next time.
Peace.